Hello. Let's see. I'm just trying to get my dashboard straightened out here. There we go. I just want to do a quick sound check. Can everybody hear me? We got yeses going on. All right, great. Cool. So, hi, and welcome to our Provisioning Cloud Infrastructure webinar. In this broadcast, my teammates and I, we are all on the Getting Started team. We'll be taking you through how to provision virtual machines using Ansible with Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, and Google Cloud Platform. Just want to mention that we will be recording this webinar, and there will not be an audio Q&A portion at any point. So if you have any questions, please type them into the webinar attendee Q&A interface, and we'll do our best to answer them during this presentation. This session is set for an hour and a half, but there's a chance it'll be closer to the 1 hour mark. And with that, let's get started. So as I said, my name is Bianca Henderson. I'll be walking you through the Azure provisioning process. I'm going to go over some slides and show what the content of your playbook should look like. I will not be going through a live demo on Azure, and because of that, I took some screenshots of the UI so you can see examples of what should be happening as you follow these examples. Now, before we start, what is Microsoft Azure? Azure is a cloud computing service created by Microsoft for building, testing, deploying, and managing applications and services through a global network of Microsoft managed data centers. It provides software as a service, infrastructure as a service, and lots of different things. And actually, they're kind of in the news a lot lately. They might be getting into the Internet of Things realm as well. So kind of fun to keep an eye on them. Okay, let's see. Okay, so before we begin, we need to make sure that Ansible is installed on your system. Since everyone provisioning on Azure presumably has an Azure account, we'll be doing all of these things using the built-in Cloud Shell terminal. So you want to type in which Ansible, and then it'll show you where Ansible is. If there is no Ansible on your system, it's going to just come back blank. If you run Ansible -- version, it will give you the version of Ansible. It needs to be 2.0.4 or later. We're going to first need to create a credentials file. So typing in this create for RBAC command creates a service principal and configures its access to Azure resources with a default role assignment. And here's how you find out your subscription ID. This displayed text is just to show you what the output should look like. That is a mock subscription ID. That is not a real one. But something like that should come up on your Cloud Shell terminal. And here's how you get the rest of the information for the credentials file. So you just type in that command that it shows there. I'll just keep this on for another second so you can take a look. So we need the client ID, secret, and tenant. So after you have all that information, you want to copy and paste it somewhere so you can type it in to the credentials file. So what you were going to do is change into the .azure directory and then create a credentials file using Vim. And you're going to go ahead and paste everything in. So you're going to put in square brackets default and then subscription _ ID and then your subscription ID that came up. And it's just going to look like in that order. And then you just hit escape and, : right quit, and it should be all set. So, all right, let's see here. Excuse me while I flip through my notes. In order to make sure that everything is configured correctly, we're going to use Ansible to create a resource group. So what you're going to do is, like how we created the credentials file, you're going to VI, it can be anything, but we're going to name it here rg.yaml. And then you're going to paste the code found on the next slide. And I'll just show you what that looks like. So the playbook that's going to verify configuration is going to look like this. All the text in red in this webinar, or at least in my portion, those indicate places where you can put in your own preferred variables or names. So config test, as it shows right there, is red. That can be anything you want. I just named it config test because that's easy to remember. And once you've put all of that information in there, you run it. The way that you run a playbook is you type in Ansible-playbook and then the name of the playbook. Usually you can also put in like a -i hosts or whatever is going to point to your host file. But in this case, we're just checking our configuration. So there's not really a host that we need to specify. So we're going to just run that. And then you just navigate to the resources group tab to the left, and you'll see your new resource group. And that's what it should look like on your UI. Under resource group, there's config test. So that was successful. Now I'm going to walk you through what a complete provisioning playbook will look like and explain what each section is doing step by step. If you don't have an SSH key pair already, make sure that you create one. This walks you through how to do that. So you just do SSH keygen, and then you're going to copy the output from the following command on that second line there, and then into a text file so you can paste it into SSH public keys within Azure _create _vm.yaml, which is what we're going to call our provisioning playbook. So in this example, you create a playbook that deploys a VM into an existing infrastructure. First, you need to create a resource group. Remember what we did with checking our credentials with the config test? We're going to just make one for this playbook specifically. And it's with that AZ group create command. And we're going to name this resource group webinar test in the East US location. And that's what it looks like when it's all set. And so with we're going to create a provisioning playbook using the BI command again on Cloud Shell. Like mentioned before, we're going to name it Azure create vm.yaml. So I'm going to show you the contents, basically each task that's going to be in there. So this is the part of the provisioning playbook that creates a virtual network named Webinar VNet in the 10.0.0.0-16 address space, if you have not done so already. So why I'm saying that is if you've already created VNets or whatever in Azure, you can just use those. Just make sure that you put in that specific VNet name into the playbook where indicated with that red text. We're just assuming here that you have not created any of that stuff. I'm just walking you through how to do it from scratch. To add a subnet, this section creates a subnet named Webinar Subnet in the Webinar VNet virtual network, which we did in the previous task. To access resources across the internet, create and assign a public IP address to your VM. This section of the playbook creates a public IP address named public IP or my public IP. Network security groups control the flow of network traffic in and out of your VM. This part of the playbook creates a network security group named Webinar Network Security Group and defines a rule to allow SSH traffic on TCP port 22. A virtual network interface card connects your VM to a given virtual network, public IP address, and network security group. That's also shortened to NIC. So here we create a virtual NIC named My NIC connected to the virtual networking resources you have created. Now the final step is to create a VM and use all the resources that we created in the previous sections. So here we create a VM named Webinar Network VM and attach the virtual NIC named My NIC with the complete public key data in the key_data portion. This is cut short for presentation purposes. I mean, it would take up the, go over the slide, but that's where you're going to be putting in that public key portion of your SSH key. Now, after you run Azure _create _vm.yaml with the Ansible-playbook command, You should be able to go into your webinar test resource group and see your newly created VM as well as security group, subnet, and everything else you set up in the tasks of that playbook. So you're going to see all of that there highlighted by the red rectangle. And as I said before, you can name them anything you like, so yours might say other stuff, but according to this demo, that is what it should say. Not only can we provision VMs using playbooks, we can also manage them. This is a very simple playbook that stops a VM that is running. So keep in mind you'll have to reference the specific resource group and VM name in the places indicated by the red text. And you can see here when you run that, and you can see also the Cloud Shell window, it says deallocating. So it's stopping that VM. Now, if you want to restart that VM that's been stopped, you can run this playbook. It's all pretty straightforward and simple, and it just eliminates the need to go into the UI and kind of hunt down your specific VM. You can just put in the name of what you've created and just be like, you know what, I'm going to stop this, and just click or run Ansible playbook, and then it'll just stop it or start it depending on which one that you ran. And this is what it'll look like when you run it and it's successful. It'll just say running. If you'd like to find out more or get access to the files that we've looked at so far, here's a link to the GitHub repo with instructions and the official Ansible documentation page. I will actually go ahead and show you. So let's see here. Sorry, I'm going to kind of make this window bigger so that y'all can see better. I'm actually going to go into Azure's UI. I just want to show you real quick, in case you have not seen this before. This is the Cloud Shell button. All you have to do is go up here and then click that, and it just starts it for you. And it gives you that command line interface, which is really awesome. Let's wait for it to start, and then you can just kind of see all my stuff is in there, all the playbooks that I showed. Some of the credentials showed when I would execute some of the stuff, so that's why I just took screenshots, in case you were wondering, but I did want to show you how to access that Cloud Shell. This is the GitHub repo that has all the instructions. As you can see here, the README is pretty thorough. It's basically like a written version of that slide deck that you just saw. All the files are right here that you might need, so you don't even have to type them out. You just clone this repo. And then this is our official Ansible documentation guide. So this talks about how to start and stop VMs and all that kind of stuff using Azure with Ansible, but it's going to be without the Cloud Shell. So if you want to do it without that, see, it says here you can also directly run Ansible on Cloud Shell. But if you don't want to do that, then you can follow these instructions here. But those are on this page. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and introduce my coworker, John Liskey. So he's going to be telling you how to provision VMs on AWS, Amazon Web Services.
Hey all, I was muted. Apologies for that. And looking for how to share my screen. Apologies for this. This is my fault. Huh. There we go. Are you able to see my screen? Okay, so hi. I'm John Liskey, Senior Product Field Engineer. I work with Bianca and Jake. I'm going to walk through a little bit of provisioning with Ansible on EC2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show a small portion of a project. The project would be something like a larger web application that you would be using Amazon's EC2 instances to run your backend. In this case, it's going to be just a simple video player on a web page. What I'm going to walk through here is how to use Ansible with EC2. That's going to be talking about, getting your AWS credentials, getting your ec2.py script. I'll include the link to the ec2.py here. I'll talk about the playbooks that I'm going to run and what they're supposed to do. Then I'm going to run the playbooks for you. So I'm going to talk about what I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to show you. After that, I'm going to share the relevant links, and then I'll let you guys play with it yourself. To go over, this is really all I had for showing slides. However, what I wanted to do was I wanted to go over what the individual files are going to do. So the first file is just it's a typical provisioning script. It's bringing up your EC2 instance. We already have a VPC, so that's our virtual network that we're going to run this on. Has already been created. We use this to run a lot of our demo environments. So that's not included in this. We can, if you go through our light bulb, what's it called? Our workshops and exercises. It walks through setting up your VPCs as well as your EC2 instances. This is working from the assumption that your EC2 already exists, or your VPC already exists. The more important one that's going to set up our web app is going to be the harness.yaml file. And what that's really doing is that's enabling the Apple repo. It's performing a few things that you would normally perform in the command line, installing your unzippers, installing Apache. After that, we have it downloading a couple of files after creating a couple of directories here. The first set of files that it downloads are going to be the video player itself. For the purposes of this, we're just using the free player video.js. You can use whatever player you like. The video file and the cover art are just both some internal media that we used. You can use whatever media that you're going to need yourself. And then from here, the only other thing that you're going to want to make sure that you're taking care of before you connect, before you run any of these things in the command line, is setting up your key pairs. We've got lots of key pairs here for all of our team. And my fault, I'm sorry. And the file, so the files themselves, you can download those. It's going to include the index file that's going to have the video player on it. You just have to edit the video player to include the media files that you're going to need, and then you should be able to fire them, and it should look like this. So here I am just showing the provisioner script or playbook. As you can see, that I'm using my ec2.py. Creating the instance is really easy. It's just a 15 to 20 seconds. But something to consider when you're starting these is that even if you're starting a T2 large, this demo is using a T2 micro, but for even starting the larger machines with lots of high-powered hardware, you're not going to get them to come up immediately. You're going to need to wait a couple of minutes. For the purposes of this, what I did is I clipped about 5 minutes between starting the provisioner script or the provisioner playbook to running the second playbook, the harness. The harness, what that's going to do is it's going to use the tag name and then from there it'll run through all the steps. That's right, I forgot. When I created this video, the first thing that I did before going over and firing the second video was get the IP address for the instance that I just created so that you can see that it's getting installed in real time. So there's not even a web server installed on the instance just yet. And we'll leave it just like that. And we'll prepare to fire. And I clipped it right around here. The purple text you see there, the invalid attribute, is the first Yum module that I use. I tend to use state for the Yum module. When you're enabling repos like the Apple repo, you don't necessarily need to have the state present. I think from beginning to end, this entire playbook to install Apache, to grab the video.js files from their repository, and then grab the video file and the cover art for the video player is all in all, I think 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. It's really fast. It literally takes longer for the instance to spin up and become accessible than it does to run the actual playbook and have it completed to the point where you can see the results from it. And it's finishing up right now. And that's it. Once you get the OK with no red here, you should be able to switch right over. Restarts, and it plays the video. And that's the magic. Okay. Now, unlike Bianca, I didn't include a decommissioning script. It's basically going to use the same. It's going to use the same playbook that you would use to create the instance. You would just be tearing it. You would be terminating it. That should cover. Oh, the GitHub itself. Sorry, I wanted to stress. So the GitHub has all the files, including the index, and it also contains examples for your variables there, in case you wanted to take those and put them into Tower. Now, this is all entry-level stuff, and like I said, this is a part of what would be a larger web application. This is something that would if you had a user management system or a media delivery system that had people logged in, you would be managing that separately. People would be referring over to this. There would be more security in place. I would be dealing with the variables a little bit differently instead of so openly. But I did want to show you that the playbooks itself are very simple and straightforward. They're going to be as complex as you need or as simple as you need. And it's really, sorry, excuse me, I got a little sidetracked. It's really just basically an exercise that you can use to familiarize yourself with spinning up instances in EC2. And with that, I'm going to hand the mic back over to Jake, and he's going to show us some googly magic.
Yeah, man, should be good. Should be good. It will be. Yeah, making sure I can share now. Let's see. Hey, John, can you pass me the presenter back, good sir? So make sure I can share while filling in with all this stuff. Waiting to view. Oh, he passed it. You know what to do. Okay, cool. So while we're doing this, my slide deck will not be as in depth as Bianca's. I will have a deck. I do not contain a demo due to how our organization, like within GCP, is set up. Getting through and showing completed machines would be a little hazardous, just for our sake. Plus, I didn't want to navigate. I didn't want to change out of changing multiple screens multiple times. So that's just a personal thing. I don't want to be digging around anywhere. So yeah, my name's Jake Jackson. I'm a senior product field engineer, along with Bianca and John. We're gonna talk about some Google Cloud provisioning today with Ansible. Hopefully, there we go. So there are some requirements to use the GCP modules. Both the requests and the Google Auth libraries need to be installed. They are available via pip as well, so when you'll just need them locally or wherever you're running your Ansible machine, whether that control node needs to be. You will need credentials, service account, or machine accounts. And the modules that I'm going to be talking about today are the specific ones that are new in 2.6. They're the GCP modules. There were some older ones. They're the GCE. Those were more community based. But as of 2.6, the new GCP modules are backed by Google. So the first thing we're going to talk about is creating credentials. We do recommend that you use JSON credentials, more specifically the service account, mainly just because the machine account credentials would only lock you into that one machine that wherever you're running Ansible from. The service account provides a whole lot more backing from the Google side. It's that particular service account, and this is how you would set that up. I would also like to let you guys know this came directly from Google. So you can open the cloud just wherever you are, open the cloud platform console. If it's not already selected, make sure you have the right project. You don't want to launch into somebody else's project. That'd be no bueno. If you need a new service account, you can do it right from there as well. That's super easy. And then choose whether or not you want to download the service account, public private key as a standard P12, or if you want to do JSON, we do recommend JSON. Or you can also load them into the Google API client library. So there's two ways you can use the credentials within Ansible. You can specify them directly as module parameters, or you can set them up as environmental variables. If you want to do them as module parameters, if you guys have launched into AWS before or Azure or anything like that from the command line, it'd be pretty similar. For this example, this will be one large playbook split up in many chunks, but you would use them and set them as variables wherever you want to. Wherever they're callable, if you want to vault them somewhere or put them directly into the playbook, that'd be great. You can do that. If you would like to set them as environmental variables, you have to set them as GCP auth kind, the service account email, the service account file, and the scopes, and that would be what I just showed earlier. All of these would map to those, and then you can call them from the environment from there. So now through the credentials and everything, as I stated before, everything that we're going to be talking about is going to fall under the new GCP naming scheme. They're all found in 2.6, and they'll be in Grader as well. So let's jump right into it. So the top level is just going to be, I'm naming it, create instance. We're running against localhost purely because we need to run against the the API, so we're just learning it here. We're not going out to anything because nothing's there yet. Vars, this is where I set it everything before. Guys, you can also set your zone and region here as well. So the auth kind, the project you would like to go to, the service account file, all that stuff can be set right there. So for this instance, we're going to create a disk. If you have infrastructure already stood up, if you have a disk already in use that you guys would like to plug right into, this is where it would go. You wouldn't have to create it, obviously, but you'll see later when we create the whole instance where I call the variable disk, where I register it right here at the bottom. So we're using the GCP compute disk. I'm just going to name it disk whatever instance. The size 50, all depending on what you guys want to use. The source image, we're going to use the Ubuntu OS Cloud. The zone, which we're going to pull right from above, the project, all that stuff, the normal variables, anything you want to pull from right there. And the state is present. Same as the disk. I'm going to create a network. If you guys have a network that's already there, feel free to use that. But for this instance, we're going to use the GCP compute network module. We're going to name the network instance, and just as above, everything, the project, auth kind, all that kind of stuff you can set right there. And we're also not forgetting registering it to the network variable. We're going to assign this instance an address using the GCP compute address module. Setting it, naming scheme all stays the same. As you can tell, it's really just one after the other. Now we'll get to the real meat, the actual thing of actually creating the instance. We're going to use the GCP compute instance module. The state will be present because obviously I would like a VM to be present. Name is the test VM. The machine type, you guys can use whatever. You can find the catalog of ones there. I'm using an N1 standard. It's pretty, as the name states, a standard machine. Here's where I'm setting the disks. You can see right there the source is disk. I'm registering it, pulling everything from down there. Auto delete true and delete true. Network interfaces. So we're going to set the network and then the access configs. Note where I'm setting the address of the NAT IP right there. Again, calling the zone, what zone we want it to be in. I'm assuming we want it to be in the same zone, but depending on what you guys are running locally within your organization, not actually locally. The project you wanted to launch into, the auth kind, the service account file that you're using, and then the scopes, and we're going to register the instance. I do want to make a note of the scopes. The scopes is just purely the API auth compute, so that is where it's going to go and authenticate with Google's API right there. So if you want to do compute everything, it's saying, hey, this is my user, etc. So that does have to be included anytime you're creating anything. So you'll see it here within the creating the address. Anytime you're creating something, it needs to be present. And here's some helpful links. I would 100% recommend this top link, guys, which we can also send this out. We should be able to send this out with the follow-up email, all of our helpful links, links to everything in case nothing came out. We can send all of this. Are the scenario guides, particularly for this, as I'm talking about Google, the Google scenario guide, the guide _ GCE was absolutely amazing. This entire example pool, everything was pulled from that. All of my notes, everything came directly from that, guys. It helped me launch everything like within a day. I was able to get up and running with it. I also have, as the helpful links, the Ansible latest for the modules. So the list of cloud modules, specifically Google, but there's the overall list. And then, as I stated before about creating the JSON credentials, that is that link to do it. If you guys are navigating through our docs, if you're navigating through the scenario guide, the link where it talks about creating service account credentials, that is this link right here. So just want to let you guys know. As for that, I believe that's everything. That's everything I have.
Okay.
How are we doing?
We came out pretty good with time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any lingering questions we need to get?
I don't believe so. Okay.
I will also stop sharing.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions I'm going to try to get. Would an OpenStack question be related to Google Cloud?
Not
That's just specifically
yeah.
OpenStack, right? Yep.
Mm-hmm. Am I currently still sharing? Trying to figure out how to stop sharing, making sure I'm not sharing everything. All right. Sweet. All right, cool. No, I'm not sharing. I wanted to... All right. I'll take a look at some of these questions here. Let's see.
modules for GCP.
All right. Cool.
Let's see. All right.
Case modules. We can find out. Definitely. Yeah, oh, you get an answer to that? Awesome. Okay. With that, I mean, we don't have any outstanding guys. We do get a generated list for these questions, by the way, so we can get some answers out with that post as well, and we see who they come from too, so we get the email and all that stuff, so we can definitely get some answers out for that. I think that wraps it up. John, do you have anything else? Bianca?
No, I
think we're good.
Go. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's way under time, so we're going to give a lot of time back to people. And if I'm able to stay on, I will try to answer some questions, and we'll, as Jake said, I'll get that email out to everybody probably in the next 24 hours.
We'll try to include all of our links from everybody's presentation as well. So it's not just the Google ones, but we'll get the AWS, any links that are relevant to today's presentation, we will get to you guys.
Yeah, including documentation, official documentation from Ansible. So
awesome. All right, guys. We hope to see you guys at Ansible Fest if you guys are there. It's coming up really soon, next week actually. So if you guys are there, Bianca and myself will be there. No John, sadly. We'll pour one out, but come say hi. We'll be in the Ansible Essentials area, right?
That's right. Yes,
we'll be
that's right. That's a new area that's just starting this year. Yep, and it's for beginners and people who have not really used Ansible too much before. So that should be exciting.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for coming.